Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today I have a whole box of them. I mean, normally I don't do that. I like to sort of segregate things out and do them individually, and I still may. But I think since I was trolling through Amazon recently just to see if things are still available, and I found out that this was, and at a really, really good price. It was like between 40 and 50 bucks for 10 CDs. It's amazing. It's this Richard Goode's complete Beethoven Sonata cycle on Nonesuch. Now, since the day this was issued, this has been one of the reference cycles. I mean, it really has. I mean, almost everybody praised it to the skies. I did a little research before doing this talk because I was just curious to see how it's held up and what people were talking about. And I've looked at a lot of chat groups and things like that. And one of the things I've learned in looking for comments and reviews about this cycle is that it's useless to look at comments and reviews about this cycle because it's all over the place. And most of it is BS, as we know. Most of it is, I hate this, or I like that, or it's somebody who is, and the piano whack jobs, of whom there are, there are entire web universes that host them. They're like bacteria. They multiply and chat amongst each other and create, whole communities of jibber jabber. It depends on what school you're trained in or who you're taught to like or what, and so you get everything is fabulous. I hate him. He's terrible. He's cold. He's emotionless. No, he's fabulous. He was the best thing since Schnabel. Well, we don't have to make those claims to simply acknowledge excellence when we hear it. Goode had the pedigree. I mean, he has the pedigree. Pardon me. He's still around. And still playing this stuff. But Schnabel taught Claude Frank, who taught Richard Goode. So there you go. There's the pedigree. He certainly has, he approaches this music from the Schnabel-esque position. That is, that it's just immensely great and deserves incredibly serious study. And other people like a more, sweaty, scratch your armpits, chimpanzee-like approach to the music with, more, banging and surface excitement. I like that too. I mean, I'm all for chimpanzees. I think they're marvelous. So that's not the issue. The issue is whether of its type, of its school, this is excellent. And it is supremely excellent. And whether you like it or not, it seems to me, I'm just taking a step back for this thing. I know most people are just interested in what they want and think what they think and say what they say, etc. But there has to be a place for some understanding and appreciation of multiple interpretive approaches and the ability to detect the most excellent of those different interpretive approaches. So anyway, what is the interpretive approach? Well, as I said, it's a very, very serious, not humorless, not at all, but a very serious and consistent view of these works as representing a steady march of evolutionary progress from earlier, somewhat lighter Beethoven, more classically oriented, to the immensely profound, as we all agree, late sonatas, with some interesting detours along the way. Now, one of the things that you will note about these performances is that they are very controlled. I will give them that. And some people want less control, especially in Beethoven. I don't think that the control that Goode exercises ever precludes excitement. Let me give you examples. I'll give you some examples, from works that we all know. The Sonata number 4, the big E-flat sonata. I mean, that's one of Beethoven's early masterpieces. It begins with just little pulsations and all that. One of the things that Goode is amazing at is understanding how to energize a melody by articulating the accompaniment and the bass lines, which are always critical in these pieces. And you hear it right at the start of that particular sonata, because the opening theme is this sort of, gay pastoral triplet sort of thing, you know. Gay isn't happy, by the way. And he really manages to create that wonderful feeling of energy always beneath the surface, ready to erupt. And so when it does, he doesn't have to like bang and clang. It's been prepared and it makes sense. And everything is in its proper place. And I like that because aside from Beethoven being, you know, a revolutionary and an emotional wreck, he was also a classical composer, a classicist, and a master of form and of shape and of the long musical paragraph. And all of those things Goode is able to do marvelously well. The beginning of the Pedigree Sonata, the first movement, is another case in point because there's always an issue when you hear recordings of these works as is the relationship between the opening tempo, grave, which is, you know, technically as slow as humanly possible, and the allegro. Now, some people, like Bachhaus, for example, take that grave very quickly and relate it in a sort of, you know, mathematical proportion to the ensuing allegro. That's one way to do it. Others just take each section as it comes. Goode knits it together, but how does he do it without precluding excitement? Well, he does it. He does it this way. The opening grave is nice and fragmented, as it should be. You don't really understand what tempo is going to emerge until that wonderful lyrical tune in the middle of it, da, 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 da. And he hits, bum, boom, da, da, jong, jong, you know, on the left hand, he really hits it. So that it's powerful and exciting, but it's already flowing. It's flowing a little bit more than that opening. And then when he gets to the allegro, it's a quick tempo. It's a notably quick tempo for that allegro. There's this rush of excitement. And all of it makes very good logical sense. And you have this balance between the mind and the heart, which is the whole concept, right? I mean, that's the idea. His Moonlight Sonata is another wonderful, wonderful example of that because, you know, the Moonlight Sonata can just be perpetually boring and hypnotic, but his left hand and balance between that fragmentary melody and the way he treats the arpeggios with gentle dynamic shadings, it's a clinic in how to create interest while also paying attention to the larger structure, the overall form of the movement, and without drawing attention to what Beethoven really wants to be a fairly unruffled surface, but keeping it interesting, always keeping it interesting. You know, you've just got to listen and let it happen and listen to what he does. I found his Waldstein Sonata is also a very good example of that because for some reason the opening of that sonata is always messed up. You know, it begins with one note, not a chord. I mean, in so many performances, you're not even sure what the meter is. You know, I mean, it's supposed to be a regular, energized pulsation, and that is what we hear. And then when it comes back, and it's you know, the broken chords, and you know, you can't even detect a rhythm. But Goode always has the rhythm in mind. There's always a firm rhythmic base. Some people would say that that's metronomic and not exciting. I think it's thrilling. I really do, because it's the launching point for everything that happens after that. And when the finale steals in, you might think initially that he's a bit slow, you know, and he gives a lot of emphasis to the left-hand accompaniment, so that there's da, 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 and you really hear the left hand. And the reason is because when it finally breaks out, and he's just fractionally pressing the tempo ahead a little bit to give it that extra zhuzh of energy, but that left hand with the huge cascades of scales rippling underneath, oh my God, it's glorious. And you realize that it's just as important as the melody on top. And it all takes shape. But, you know, Goode is willing to trade moment for moment, you know, excitement. You might want to, not excitement, but just moment by moment emphasis. Let's just say emphasis for the larger picture. To be able to open out at the climaxes, to be able to build a paragraph. And that's just such an important thing in this music. And he does it so magnificently. The last sonatas, I mean, he's played like the last three as a group for like 1 billion years in recital. I mean, they're gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. You know, they're deep, they're profound, they're sincerely felt. I mean, the arietta is just, oh my God, it's to die for. He knows how to create a bel canto line, a singing line, in Beethoven's lyrical moments. I mean, it's just an incredibly consistent body of work. It has no weak links. And it's produced by the legendary Max Wilcox, who knew more about how to record a piano than just anybody in the universe. Remember, he did all the Arthur Rubinstein, Chopin things and whatnot for RCA. He was a great producer. And so he had a wonderful production team, has a wonderful production team for this set. And like I said, it's still around. And it's an amazing achievement, a tremendous achievement, despite what, others may, yak about. It's sort of depressing. There are standards, and they're audible, and they ought not to be all, at the mercy of people's subjective blather. I mean, there are other Beethoven sonata cycles that I love that are quite different from this. Very different, but that's not the point. The point is, this is one of the greatest recordings ever, and it's still available. So if you haven't heard it, and have been waiting for some reason, whatever reason, and you like the Beethoven sonatas, this is as good a reference edition for these pieces as you will ever hear. It really is. And it's a wonderful bedrock Beethoven sonata cycle. Its musical virtues are undimmed after a couple of decades. They really are. They only grow on you because Goode's musicianship is second to none. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.